So today is lesson 9, and today's our first of 2 classes where we're going to be working on our shopping cart functionality. We're not going to be doing that much brand new stuff, but we're going to be taking what we've done so far with MVC and then looking at how do we write pretty much a custom controller with a set of custom methods, where we're not really just scaffolding CRUD methods from the database, but we're writing very business-specific logic. So we already created a custom controller back in our last class before our midterm. We created a shop controller, but we're going to do a lot of work in that controller. We're going to look at how we filter query results. We're going to implement session variables in .NET Core, and then we're going to generate some new views using some of the .NET Core templating engines to do some of our views. So if you want to open up your Global GRUD project, and where we left off with it several weeks ago was we built this shop. We added this shop link to our nav. We created a shop controller, and it had one index in view, had an index method. And in the index method, we're using our categories DB set to display the list of categories. We're using a loop, and we're generating the categories using this Bootstrap card format. So we did this work back, I think, in week 6. It's been a little while since we implemented this work. So we created the shop controller. Whenever we create a controller, Visual Studio automatically generates a method in there called index. And we wrote a query here. We used our database connection that we declared at the class level. We instantiated it within our constructor. So whenever an instance of our controller gets instantiated, that object also receives a database connection object. And then we're using our categories DB set. We're getting the list of categories in alphabetical order. And then we're passing this data set to the index view. In our shop index, we declared a model of IEnumerable of type categories. So this page receives a list of categories from the controller. And we used a loop, and we used the Bootstrap, some of the Bootstrap card classes to generate a card for each category. We displayed the category name, and we also made each name a link to a method called shop by category that also is going to appear in our shop controller. So here's the result. So if I click on any one of these, it's calling shop by category, and it's passing in the ID. I'm actually going to make one little change to these links to make our URLs a little friendlier. So open up your views shop index. I'm going to change this property here that sets up that URL parameter. So with this ASP root -category ID, what it does is it appends on a category ID parameter into our URL, along with the numeric value, primary key. So bakeries 3, for example. I'm going to simplify this. I'm going to actually remove the string category from this parameter. And we'll see why in a minute. So I just want my parameter to be ASP-root-ID instead. Show you what this does. This is a special parameter name. See what we mean in a minute. So when I refresh my shop, if I click now, notice If we simply call our parameter ID, it just puts in a slash and then the number, that primary key value. That question mark category ID equals that ugly query string syntax, we can actually replace it. But only if we name our parameter ID. So the next thing we need to do here is we need to build the shop by category method and then the view that's also called shop by category. So what should happen on this page? User comes to the site, they click on shop, they click a category. What should we show them when they do those steps? Yeah. Okay. We should see, as Amar and Yulia said, we should see a list of items. Yeah. But the items should be filtered. We don't want to show all the products. We only want to show the products that have this category ID. As Alex said, the products in the category. Manjinder, it depends. I mean, in reality, we could make it so that a user needs to log in before they can see any of the products. I would suggest for business reasons, that's probably not the best idea. Most websites will let us shop without logging in. Why? What's the benefit? What's the business reason? It's not a technical reason, but what's the business argument for allowing users to shop anonymously? Yep, people like to window shop. They can preview it. Windows shop. I mean, I don't even know if you don't show me the products, I want to see your products before I give you my personal information and create an account. So for many users, forcing them to log in, even to see what products you're selling, it's going to be a disincentive for many people. Many people are just going to leave your site. Okay, so most e-commerce sites, they allow you to shop anonymously. You're going to have to log in to complete your order and check out, but at least to see what's in the store and put items in your cart, most people are going to want the right to do that anonymously. Yep, like answering a random phone call before Googling the number. Yep, you never use Pinterest until they require you to log in. Better for search engine. Yeah, so I would suggest, let's go here. Let's go, like we could go to Zehrs. I can go to the local grocery store, right? I'm not signed in, but I can see products. I need some tomatoes. Okay, it might force me to find a location. Interesting, it picked Fergus. Anyway, I can keep shopping, right? I can put items in my cart, but it still doesn't know who I am. Maybe I'm just comparison shopping, for example. So we'll keep this open because we'll maybe look at a grocery store cart for some reference. Okay, so we've got two parts. We need to build the shop by cart method in the controller, and then we need to build the shop by cart view in the views. So let's go to our controller. So when we have a get request at shop/shop by category, I like to put these comments above the methods so we can actually see what URL at what URL does a particular method get invoked. The scaffolding does this automatically. So for example, in the categories controller that we scaffolded, you notice it shows the URL path above all of the methods, which I think is good practice. So our method will return an iAction result. And our method takes an integer parameter of an ID. So we want to get products in selected category. So we'll use our database context, our products DB set dot where I'll try. That might be a little bit too big, Jennifer, because I'm worried we're not going to see the line. So I may have to zoom back out a bit. I believe you can also zoom in WebEx. There should be a little zoom in, zoom out kind of magnifying icon over on the left. So we're going to say where our category, the category ID, our foreign key, is equal to our ID parameter. And then we will convert that to a list so we can enumerate, we can iterate through it in the view. And then we can just return a view. So now we can go ahead and generate a view. I'm going to do it as an empty view. We could use the list template to scaffold, but that's just going to show us the products in an HTML table. It's going to have edit details and delete links, not really appropriate for the shopping experience. We want to use kind of a similar format to this page. We're going to use the Bootstrap card view. In fact, maybe I can show you, might not be a bad idea. I'll show you from my Monday class what this is going to look like. So in my Monday class, we're building a bookstore. What the class voted for. So I'll give you sort of a preview of what we're going to do, where this is going to go. We've got our shop. We've got our cards with categories. And when we click, we want our shop by category page to look like this. It's going to show the name of the category. And then we're going to have a card for each product where we've got, a name, description, image, quantity, and then we can add items to our cart. So this is kind of what we want to have happen when we click. So I'm going to right click my method name. I'm going to choose add a view. We'll just pick an empty view to keep it simple. We can hand code what's here, bit at a time. And it will be called shop by category. So the same as the method name. Pardon me. So we're just going to get an empty view. First thing we're going to need is a model. So our model is an IEnumerable of our product class. This page is going to display a list of products. We'll set the title. I can just say, I don't know, shop our store. So let's see, shop for, and eventually we'll include the category name up at the top. So when they click seafood and we come to the list of seafood products, we'll have a heading that says seafood up at the top. We'll add on a section with Bootstrap. and we'll use card group. And then inside of this section, we're going to use similar classes, similar formatting to our index view. And we'll use our loop in here to output the products one at a time as Bootstrap cards. So I'll just use a variable, I'll call it P for product. And we'll use kind of similar set of Bootstrap card classes. So we want 3 cards per row. We'll make each card, we'll center the text, we'll make it 100 pixels high. We might have to change it. We'll see. And then lastly, our card body will go in the middle. And we'll build this card one piece at a time. For starters, we just want to show the product name. We'll add some other things in here later, but we'll kind of do this incrementally. So now we can just display our @p.name. So show the product name. This is really almost the exact same as our index view. Right? We've got almost the same code here. So let's go and have a quick look at how this renders out. So now when I click seafood, I get 3 seafood products. Produce, I get our 4. Nothing under sweets. Okay, so it's showing the products, but our filter, our where clause is working so that we're only getting the products that belong to the category that our user clicked on. Okay, at full scale, we'll see that the cards, again, rows of 3. Obviously, this page is far from complete, but we've got to start here. Let's add some other things into these cards. So if we go and look at our product model for a moment, here are the different properties, right? We've got the product ID, which obviously we know we're not going to show. The product name we're displaying. We've got price, we've got weight, we've got photo. So what else should we put in? What else should we display in these cards for each product? Which other field should be included? Yep, we definitely want the price in here. Yeah, I think the photo, weight, and the price would all make sense. Okay. So let's do that. So maybe what we'll do is let's put this in a heading. We'll maybe make it an H5 so the product name stands out a little bit. It's going to be a little bit bigger. Yes, nah, sure. So in the shop index, originally, this was ASP root category ID. I took out the word category from the parameter. If we call our parameter ID, it's special Visual Studio then automatically knows we're passing in a primary key value. So it'll format the URL just with a slash and then the ID. Okay, now is that good? All right. So I'm going to wrap the product name in an H5. I'll use smaller heading for the price. And then we're going to show an image if there is one. And if there's no image, we'll show our placeholder. So if our photo is not null, we will display a thumbnail. That's going to be images, products, and then add p.photo. We'll just give it a little alt tag. And we'll use our thumb class that we defined a few weeks ago. We don't want the image at full scale, just a little thumbnail. I think we set it at 75 pixels wide. If there's no photo, we do have our placeholder image. If we go and look at our images, right, we've got all our products, but then we've got this little placeholder GIF. So we can use that if no image has been uploaded. So for every product, we're either going to show the photo that we uploaded as the administrator, or else if there is no photo, we're going to show this little placeholder. So now it looks like this. We also need some currency formatting here. So we're going to use string.format method around the price to format our price as currency. Oh, yes. Forgot about that. If we've got time at the end today, I will do that. Yes, I forgot we have to do that. Thanks, Julia. So remind me. I'll try to make time at the end of class today for it. So you can see the price, format as currency. Oh, I think we also need the weight. I think, yeah, Amar mentioned the weight. We missed that. So let's include it as well. I know we don't have units for the weight, but we'll put it in anyway. I know the weight might mean different things in different units. Obviously, 10 grams is quite different from 10 kilograms. We'll just leave that part for now. I think we left the units out. So we'll just put in the weight. I know it's not ideal. It's okay. So we've used an H5, so our product name is a little bit bigger. I think we should also order this list, because if we've got lots of items, right now these are shown ordered by product ID. So if we go back to the controller method, we should be adding an order by clause in here. I'm going to go back to my shop controller. And I also want to chain on here a dot order by. So we want to show the products alphabetically by name. So under the hood, this will write an SQL order by clause for us. And now if I click seafood, instead of getting, what I've got, I think I have prawns. Yeah, I had prawns, sushi, and oysters before. Now it's OPS. So I've got oysters first, then prawns, then sushi. So it makes sense that we have this little order by here. We also want to display the category name at the top of the page. So when the user sees the products, they know what category they're looking at. We think about it here. So if I go, if I pick, fruit and vegetables, right? The page has the heading of what I picked. Herbs, it shows me. On ours, we want shop for and we want the title. So we need to get the category. We have the ID, but we also need the category name here. So we can use a second query here, a simple query, and we can also use the view bag. We want to get name of selected category. So if we want to find a single object based on the primary key, we can use the find method. It's built into the Entity Framework core library. So we're going to pass in the ID. So this is going to give us a category object. We're just going to read, we're going to get the name property, for display in page A. So we want to show that category name above the products, so the user knows what category they're looking at. And now we can render this view bag category inside an H1 tag, inside the H1 we've already got. So we want this to appear over here. I'll go back to my view. Maybe I'll just take out the colon here, and we can just use the view bag dot category. And then it will render it inside of the H1 we've already got. So now when I click seafood, shop for seafood, so whatever category I click on, that category name will show at the top of our page. So we want to do one more thing with this. Does anybody have any questions so far about our method and our view that we've created? Manjinder, make sure you have products in your database, number one. So string.format, it allows various formatting. So for example, date or time, we could supply a date or time format. The C represents currency format. It's based on the web server's regional settings. So if our web server was located in China, it would format the price in Chinese currency. Okay, so that price gets rendered in dollars and cents. Yes, that's right. So make sure you change, thanks, Neh. Make sure you change the parameter. So in index, your root parameter's got to be called ID, because our method is looking for a parameter called ID. So make sure in index you remove category. Okay, Manjinder, if it's not working, then I suggest use the debugger. Put a breakpoint here and do debug and start debugging and try running through and watching the code to see what's happening. That's why where the runtime debugger should help you. You should be able to track what's going on. So we're going to add one more thing to this before we take a break, which is we want to add a little form. Users should be able to add to cart right from here. You know, we should give them a little input for quantity, a label and text box, and an add to cart button. In the bookstore we did yesterday, I mean, we made it so that a user could click in because we had additional fields. We don't really need this in our store. We can let people just add to cart right from here. Okay. So we want to add a little add to cart with quantity option directly in our shop by category. So inside of each cart down at the bottom, inside the card body, we now want a small form. Our method is going to be post. Our action will be shop/add cart. So every card, every product is going to have its own form, but they all go to the same place. So we need two values to add an item to the cart, right? We need to know what product does the user want and what quantity. So we'll need inputs for these. The product ID, it's part of our P variable, it's part of our model. So we'll just stick that in a hidden field. We don't need to show the product ID here. We just need to embed it in the form. So first we'll have an input with type equals hidden. And the name, we'll call it product ID. And our value will be p.product ID. So we're going to inject the primary key value into the form. User isn't going to type it. User doesn't need to see it. But if we're going to add it to cart, we're going to need this value. We can't add something to cart if we don't have a product ID. So then we're going to add one field set, one sort of label and input pairing. So we'll put on a label that says quantity. Right below it, we'll put on an input with that name. So the name will be quantity. Type will be a number. It's going to be required. You can't click add to cart under a product if you don't add a quantity. Min is 1, max equals, I don't know. And we'll set a default value of 1. So every product card will have a quantity label, quantity input. Looks kind of like this. We'll need to fix up how it looks a little bit. And then we will have an add to cart button. We're going to style this a little bit. So I'll just put in a regular button, use our primary button class. So now every product has an add to cart option with it. With our validation, I can't go below 1. I can't put in a text value. I also can't submit one of the forms if the add to cart is blank. So we have all the functionality we need. Want to make 2 little tiny adjustments. Want to make our quantity box narrower. Also want to add a little bit of margin at the top. So I'm going to create a class for this input. Narrow it down, add a little bit of margin. We're almost due for a break, but we'll do that quickly. So in my input, I'm going to add a class of, let's say, input small. And then I'm going to define this input small class in our CSS file, our custom style sheet. I can set up a few design properties to make this page look a little better. So inside of our www root folder inside CSS, here's our style sheet, the Visual Studio created, site.css. Let's open it up. These are all the default styles. We changed some of these before. So I'll create input-small. We'll set the width at 75 pixels. And give it a margin top of, I don't know, maybe 5 pixels. We'll see how that looks. Okay, so my new class is here. Last 4 lines in the file. And now my quantity is narrower, and I've got a little bit of padding, a little bit of margin at the top here. So I think it looks better. Could even use maybe a few more pixels margin. I'll try 7. Yeah, I think it's a little better. The one other thing I'll just do is maybe put in the word weight here, so at least we know what these numbers are. They're not very meaningful. No idea what this even means. So the last change we'll make in the card, I will upload to GitHub in a minute. Maybe here before our weight value, I'll just put in the word weight with a colon. At least our shoppers will have some idea what that value is, even though we really need the units for it to be meaningful. I'll just add this. So at least I can see So we're getting there. I think this page is pretty much done. We're kind of mimicking sort of what you get here. Photo with ad, product name, price. We might have the weight. So we're not too far off. Okay, so I think our shop by category is done. We've got the method working the way we want. We've got our view rendering our products and giving users the ability to add any of them to their cart. So I'm going to upload to Git. We're going to take a 10-minute break here. When we come back, we're going to work on the add to cart. So how do we put them in the cart, and then what happens after we've added to cart? So we'll do that next, but we will take a 10-minute break.